Hello and welcome to Sherry Hales Ministries. I'm Sherry Hales, and today we will be continuing with the Cultivating Spiritual Fruit series. Today, the characteristic of the fruit of the Spirit of kindness or gentleness will be discussed. So some versions they call it kindness, and then others call it gentleness. So I just want to get right into it. So kindness, to be kind is to be sympathetic or helpful, or to have a helpful nature, arising from or characterized by sympathy or forbearance. It is to provide pleasure or relief, and to be affectionate and loving. And gentle is to be free from harshness, sternness, or violence. It is being like it's the quality of being soft and delicate in your interactions towards others. And so this is the characteristic of the fruit of the Spirit that we'll talk about today. Now, Psalms 145, verse 8. The World English Bible Version says, Yahweh is gracious, merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness. I really like that that verse, because this is telling us the character of God. This is what we as children of God are to emulate. As children of God, we are to emulate the character of God. We are to develop into, the nature that the Lord has. And so it's telling us that He's gracious, He's merciful, He's slow to anger, and He is of great loving kindness. And I think it's just amazing. I mean, sometimes just in life, and even a lot of the rhetoric that we hear when we turn on TV these days, just to be informed and watch the news, and you can hear so many things that are so opposite from this definition of what I just read. I find it so refreshing just to remember that the God I serve, He's a good God. And He still does good for His people. And He's good to His people in spite of whatever may be going on in a day. God, He is the same. He doesn't change. When we need kindness, we can rely on Him, because He'll always be kind to us. So that verse, Psalms 145 and 8, this is a great verse to meditate on. It's a great verse to just turn on worship music. It doesn't even have to have words to it. Just worship music and meditate on this. Think about it. And let God actually bring this verse to life within you, so that you'll realize this is who your Heavenly Father is. And it will bless you right there, just to know that you have communion with the Creator of the universe, and His character is this character. He's gracious. He's merciful. He's slow to anger. And he is of great loving kindness. So you never have to feel that no one cares. Even if you are at a place in your life where you may not have kindness displayed to you by other people for whatever reason, but just know that the Lord cares, and he always will. It's not sometimes people, you develop relationships with people, and they're kind, and they like you one minute, and then they change, and sometimes you don't even know why. You're not even sure what transpired to bring about a change. But just know that God is consistent. His kindness towards you will not change. And again, that does not mean that bad won't happen, because if you'll look back at some of my other videos, I talk about why bad things are in this world, and why sometimes as Christians we are affected. So I'm not going to go into all of that, but you can go back and look at some of my videos. You can visit my website, www.sherryhales.weebly.com, and my name is spelled with a Y, Sherry with a Y. So today I do want to talk about there's a story in the Bible, the book of Ruth. I think the book of Ruth, it's a very short book. I'm actually going to read the entire book. It's only 4 chapters. And I'm not going to do a whole lot of explaining, because the book will speak for itself. You'll be able to just see the qualities of kindness. I'm going to read it, and I'll talk about some of it as I'm going through. Or you can just read it on your own, because I'm just going to basically read Ruth. So let's see. And the version that I'm reading from is the King James Version. So I'm starting in Ruth. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled, and there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion. Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left, and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died, also both of them. And the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. before she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her. And they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each to your mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. So, right there, Naomi is acknowledging that both of her daughter-in-laws have been kind. They've been kind to her. And it impressed upon her so much that she is now extending a blessing to them and saying, The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. So I'm going to continue on now. I'm in verse 9. The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lift up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way. For I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would ye tarry for them till they were grown? Would ye stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes, that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. And they lift up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people, and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest will I die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her. So they went until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them. And they said, Is this Naomi? And she said unto them, Call me not Naomi, call me Mara. For the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me home again empty. Why then call ye me Naomi, seeing the Lord hath testified against me, and the Almighty hath afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab. And they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest. Okay, so that's just setting the stage for what was going on when they got there, when they got back to Bethlehem. It was the beginning of the barley harvest. Now I'm in chapter 2. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth and the Moabitess said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and said unto the reapers, The Lord be with you. And they answered him, The Lord bless thee. Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, Whose damsel is this? And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, It is the Moabitess damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers amongst the sheaves. So she came, and hath continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, Hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? And when thou art athirst, go unto the vessels, and drink of that which the young men have drawn. Then she fell on her face, and bowed herself to the ground, and said unto him, Why have I found grace in thine eyes? And thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger. And Boaz answered and said unto her, It hath fully been shewed me, all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity, and art come into a people which thou knewest not heretofore. The Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. That's a beautiful statement right there. Okay, I'm in 13 now. Chapter 2:13. Then she said, Let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken friendly unto thine handmaid, though I be not like unto one of thy handmaidens. So just look at that. She's a stranger, a strange land. This is her first day. She just went to the field and asked, Can I please just reap here? And they showed her favor and allowed her to. Then Boaz comes, and he takes notice of her, that there's someone there that he has not seen before, and he's wondering, who is she and why is she here? So he finds out who she is. Then kindness again. He remembers he's heard stories about Naomi's daughter-in-law, who's been so kind to her, and cared so much about her, thought so highly of her, that she left her own country, her own gods. She left her own family so that she could follow after Ruth. And not only did she leave all of that, she left her own culture. So now she's in a strange land. They have different customs and different culture. Things are different there. She has to, familiarize herself with what's going on there. Think about just moving somewhere, even to another country or something, and having to figure out, how people behave there and how can you fit in. So all of this is going on in this story right here, and everybody is being kind to her because they heard of her great kindness. So kindness is something that is returned in kind. When you are kind, kindness comes back. And again, there are always, exceptions. There are sometimes people that are kind are not, they don't get it back necessarily, but that's a whole nother teaching right there. Typically, kindness, when you're of a kind nature, it is returned back. So he had heard all about her kindness, and because she was so kind to Naomi, now he's being kind to her. Now I'm in chapter 2, verse 14. And Boaz said unto her, at mealtime, come thou hither, and eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in the vinegar. And she sat beside the reapers, and he reached her parched corn. He gave her parched corn. Okay, and he reached her parched corn, and she did eat, and was sufficed and left. And when she was risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, let her glean, even among the sheaves, and reproach her not. And let fall also some of the handfuls of purpose for her, and leave them, that she may glean them, and rebuke her not. Wow. That's almost like, I guess in today's world it would be like somebody saying, drop handfuls of money on purpose for them, so that they can be blessed, or something, something equivalent to something like that. I mean, this is a phenomenal display of favor and kindness in this book. So now I'm at chapter 2, verse 17. So she gleaned in the field until even, and beat out that she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it up and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she brought forth and gave to her that she had reserved after she was sufficed. And her mother-in-law said unto her, where hast thou gleaned today? And where wroughtest thou? Blessed be he that did take knowledge of thee. And she shewed her mother-in-law with whom she had wrought, and said, the man's name with whom I wrought today is Boaz. And Naomi said unto her, daughter-in-law, blessed be he of the Lord, who have not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead. And Naomi said unto her, the man is near of kin unto us, one of our next kinsmen. And Ruth the Moabitess said, he said unto me also, thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have ended all my harvest. And Naomi said unto Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it is good, my daughter, that thou go out with his maidens, that they meet thee not in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law. So, I mean, think about where they had come from. So, they had just experienced, prior to that, so much death and devastation. They were brought to nothing. Even to the point where Naomi, she said, don't call me Naomi anymore. Because, call me Mara. Because she felt like she was, she had just been, life had just beat her into like a wet noodle or something. So she was really not very optimistic about her future. But look at this turn of events in this book. It's amazing. And all of the kindness. So now I'm at chapter 3. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, my daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor. But make not thyself known unto the man, until he shall have done eating and drinking. So, there's a lot to that. This is one of the customs of their people at times. So, at that time. So, at that time, there could be a kinsman, a relative of the person that passed on, who would pretty much, I guess, just pick up where the person that passed on left off, so that the people could have a means of a livelihood. So Naomi saw the kindness, and she knew that he was a kinsman redeemer, so he could step in, and if he wanted to, he could step in and marry Ruth and provide a living for them. So back then, they had different customs and things like that, that afforded them to be able to have a decent lifestyle. So some of this sounds weird to us today, but remember, this is about a civilization that was structured differently than what we have today. So this was some of their customs, and it sounds a bit odd to us, but so she was basically, her mother-in-law was telling her, make yourself attractive, and maybe Boaz will take notice of you to the point where he will step in and become your husband, because your husband has now perished, and he can step in, and and that was major back then, because both of them on their own, and I have not recently, I mean, I have before read about the cultures of that time, but it's not fresh in my mind where I want to try to delve into that right now. But this was, him stepping in would help them, because they were both widows, both Naomi and Ruth. They were both widows. So this was a big deal. So let's see, I'm trying to see where I was. Chapter 3. Okay, so I believe I was at 4. It says, and it shall be when he lieth down, that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in, uncover his feet, and lay thee down, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do. And she said unto her, all that thou sayest unto me I will do. And she went down unto the floor, and did according to all that her mother-in-law bade her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn. And she came softly, and uncovered his feet, and laid her down. And it came to pass at midnight, that the man was afraid, and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread thou forth thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. So I guess in today's world, that will be equivalent of Ruth saying something like, would you become my husband? Similar to something like that. Similar, like a proposal. She's basically saying, I'm willing to become your wife. Would you have me as your wife? Would you become my husband? And now I'm at chapter 10. And he said, blessed be thou. So this is favorable right now, because he's saying, blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast shewed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requirest, for all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thy near kinsman. Howbeit there is a kinsman nearer than I. So basically he's saying, yes, I can become the kinsman redeemer, but there's someone else who can become the kinsman first. So basically, there was another story in the Bible when Jacob was tricked into marrying Leah when he wanted to marry Rachel, but Laban, his father-in-law, tricked him and had him marry Leah first. And Jacob said, "Why did you do this?" And Laban said, "It's our custom that the oldest or the eldest be married first." So this is basically the same thing. He's saying there is someone else. It is our custom. There's a nearer kinsman, someone who's even a nearer kinsman than I am. They must be able, they must have the first choice to say whether they will be the kinsman. And if they won't, then I'll do it. So Boaz wanted to do it, but this shows his character, that even though he wanted to become the kinsman redeemer, he was saying it's not our custom for me to become your kinsman redeemer because there's someone else that can do it. So I have to let them know first and see if they will do that. So I'm at 3:13. Tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning, that if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman's part. But if he will not do the part of a kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of a kinsman to thee. As the Lord liveth, lie down unto the morning. So he told her, where you are, you can stay there. So she just stayed there until the morning. And she lay at his feet until the morning. And she rose up before one could know another. So I guess she rose up when it was still pretty dark, before they could recognize each other, because it was still dark. And he said, let it not be known that a woman came into the floor. Also he said, bring the veil that thou hast upon thee, and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 measures of barley, and laid it on her. And he went into the city. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, Who art thou, my daughter? And she told her all that the man had done to her. And she said, These 6 measures of barley gave he me, for he said to me, Go not empty into thy mother-in-law. Then said she, Sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall. For the man will not be in rest until he have finished the thing this day. Okay, so basically she's saying, just kind of wait until you get your answer. So now I'm at chapter 4. Then went Boaz up to the gate and sat him down there. And so the gate, so the city had a gate when you enter or exit the city. So it says Boaz went there because he wanted to see his kinsman redeemer. So it says, then went Boaz up to the gate, and set him down there. And behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by. So back then, they didn't have telephones or cell phones or email and things that we all, take for granted today, that it exists. These things didn't always exist. So he had to go and sit, and his eyes had to physically see his kinsman redeemer, the other kinsman, when he showed up. So that's why he went to the gate, so that he could see the coming and going of people in the city. So I'm at 4. I'm still in verse 1. It says, and the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, unto whom he said, Ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. I guess, pretty much equivalent to saying, hey, come here, sit down, let me talk to you, basically. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and sat, sit ye down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi that is come again out of the country of Moab selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's. And I thought to advertise thee, saying, Buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there is none to redeem it besides thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. Then said Boaz, What day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth, the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. So basically he was saying, no, I can't do that. So this is what Boaz really wanted to hear. He just needed to make sure that he had given him an opportunity to redeem it if he wanted to. So now this was the manner in former time. Okay, so all right, I'm at 4:7 now, chapter 4, verse 7. Now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing. For to confirm all things, a man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was a testimony in Israel. Therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, Buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, Ye are witnesses this day, that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's, of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place. Ye are witnesses this day. And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman that is come into thine house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel. And do thou worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give thee, of this young woman. Okay. So then it says, so Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. So they married. Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in unto her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the women said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thine old age. For thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom, and became nurse unto it. And the women, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now these are the generations of Pharez. Pharez begat Hezron, and Hezron begat Ram, and Ram begat Amminadab, and Amminadab begat Nahshon, and Nahshon begat Salmon, and Salmon begat Boaz, And Boaz begot Obed, and Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David. And of course, we know that that is King David. And of course, we know that his lineage, Jesus, came from the line of David. So, what a wonderful story. What a wonderful story where, you know, things had gotten so rough and so difficult. But look how it turned out. So it's just an amazing display of kindness in so many different ways in this story. Kindness makes a difference. And I keep saying kindness, but also gentleness, because the fruit of the Spirit, in some versions, it calls it gentleness. And we see that also displayed, just that spirit of a gentle and kind nature. It makes a difference. These are characteristics that the Lord wants to be developed within his people, within the people that he calls children. He has adopted us to be his children, and he wants us to look just like him, just like Christ, as much as we can on this side of life. He wants us to grow into that image. And in another video, I said it's a lifetime pursuit, and it is, because Jesus was he was the perfect man. So it'll take our entire lifetimes to just continue to try to grow that godly character and become more Christ-like, more like Christ. So thank you for being with me as I've read the entire book of Ruth. I hope that you will take time to also reflect on this chapter and just the kindness that was displayed and the gentleness that was displayed over and over in this book. And so I'm just going to end everything for today. Thank you so much for being with me. I know that you could have been doing anything, and if you've taken the time to watch this video, I just thank you, and I ask that the Lord will be with us through these difficult times that are going on in the world today, and just show us kindness and gentleness, show us his favor despite what's going on, and that we in turn will display that same godly character and nature to those that we have an opportunity to interact with. So I'm just going to say a prayer and wrap up everything. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to read the book of Ruth. I just ask that you will bless each and every one of us and touch us, God, according to whatever it is that we need in our individual lives. I ask that you will bless us and keep us, make your face shine upon us, Lord. Lift up your countenance upon us, be gracious to us, give us peace, give us love, give us joy, give us patience, give us kindness. I bless you, Lord, and I thank you, and we love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Until the next time, be blessed and walk with God.